Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm very happy to be here with all of you. I think you've already chanted, so I will just say the Mangala Charan and then we can begin. Om Ajnana Timirandhakshaya Vinanjana Sarakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Vichaitanyamanopistam Papitam Yena Bhuktare Vayurupapadakhmakam Tadapisvakatantikam Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sundravadi Satyatya Vishakarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasana Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I would like to read one text from Bhagavad Gita. This is from the 8th chapter. Text number 6, a very famous text, a very instructive text from Bhagavad Gita. Yam yam bhakti-shvaram bhavam chachatyante kadevaram tam tamivaiti kunteya satata bhava bhavita. Translation. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. Everyone can please repeat. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. The process of changing one's nature at the critical moment of death is here explained. A person who at the end of his life quits his body, thinking of Krishna, attains the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord. But it is not true that a person who thinks of something other than Krishna attains the same transcendental state. This is a point we should note very carefully. How can one die in the proper state of mind? Maharaj Bharata, although a great personality, thought of a deer at the end of his life. And so in his next life he was transferred into the body of a deer. Although as a deer he remembered his past activities, he had to accept that animal body. Of course, one's thoughts during the course of one's life accumulate to influence one's thoughts at the moment of death. So this life creates one's next life. If in one's present life one lives in the mode of goodness and always thinks of Krishna, it is possible for one to remember Krishna at the end of one's life. That will help one be transferred to the transcendental nature of Krishna. If one is transcendentally absorbed in Krishna's service, then his next body will be transcendental, spiritual, not material. Therefore, the chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, is the best process for successfully changing one's state of being at the end of one's life. So, this is a very important understanding of how we should utilize our time. In Srimad Bhagavatam it says that when the sun rises and sets, then one loses one day. And all that time is so valuable that it could never be purchased again, even with unlimited amounts of gold. Srila Prabhupada knew one very wealthy man in Calcutta, and he went to the doctor, and the doctor said, "I'm sorry, you only have three months to live." And he said, "Oh, that's not acceptable." No. He said, I have so many things to do. My dear doctor, I will pay you any amount. He was a very wealthy man. I need another 6 months. I said, "I'm sorry." So Prabhupada would always give the example that just like if you're renting an apartment and you don't pay the rent, it's not that they will kick you out. No, it's not that you say, "Well, I don't want to leave." No, you must leave. So the same, we're in this body, and we will have to leave it sometime. And that leaving the body, as it says here, is the most important thing in our life. There's nothing more important than leaving the body. Of course, more important is to meditate on Krishna. But meditating on Krishna is the way we leave the body properly. So we're preparing for that moment of leaving the body. So to understand that our position, Krishna said, "Najayate mriyate va kadachin," that for the soul there's no birth and death. Unless we understand our real spiritual nature, that there's no birth, there's no death. Nabhutva bhavita ta sa nabhuya. And there was never a time when I did not exist. There's never a time when I began to exist in the present. And there's never a time when I will be given existence in the future. So what does that mean? Why would it say that? Because some people think that that before a certain time I did not exist. No, we've always existed. And then maybe I was just born in this body. No, you were always existing. Or maybe I will have some special position in the future. No. You will be the same person. The only difference is, what are the circumstances around you? So then the soul is glorified. Ajo nitashashkato yam burano. The soul is without birth, is eternal, has no end, and is the oldest. Otherwise, sometimes we say, "I'm old," or someone's old and someone's young. No, we're all old, and we're all young at the same time. We're old because we always existed, and we're young because we never die. It's like when in Krishna consciousness, as we practice Krishna consciousness, we become younger. The body may get older, but the consciousness becomes younger. Krishna described by a great sage, great saintly person, great Acharya, Yamunacharya. He said, "Nava nava rasa damani," that Ramtumasi, that the Krishna is always new. Not only is Krishna eternal, But Krishna always knew. And when we're related to Krishna, we also become renovated at every moment. Not renovation like the body, like, you get a facelift or something, but it means that you're always feeling that more energy, more, just like in our disciplic succession, we had one great personality, Jagannath Das Babaji, and his Shiksha disciple, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, one of our greatest acharyas, most prolific writers, wrote 125 books. But these are not like books like, the novelist so-and-so, Conquering the West, or, feeling good about oneself. It's a very profound spiritual, one of them is a novel, but it's not an ordinary novel, like what you see on television, the soap operas. It's like, it's a spiritual opera, and so deep. So he really desired, because all kinds of people were saying, where's the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya? So at that time, Jagannath Das Babaji had something around 125, he was around 125 years old. He was so old that the skin on his eyelids was coming down to here. You couldn't see his eyes anymore. It was like this. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he got one strong servant, put him, kind of a basket, and carrying him like this. When they arrived at the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, Jagannath Das Babaji jumped up. He was practically, he couldn't walk. He jumped up and started chanting the holy name of Krishna. And Gauranga, Gauranga, here is the Lord. So, even though the body may be very old, if the soul is spiritually enlightened, we don't feel that. We don't identify with that. We don't care about that. We don't care. We simply care about this body because it belongs to Krishna, and therefore we must care for it very much. Not because I want to enjoy it. I want to enjoy the senses. I want to enjoy the objects around me. But because this belongs to Krishna. Just like if your best friend loans you their vehicle, you will take better care of their vehicle than you would your own. Because if I scratch my vehicle, I probably become a little frustrated. But if you scratch your best friend's vehicle, then you'll be, what am I going to say? And so this is spiritual life. This is what brings us to that point. And so today we're remembering this leaving the body of the mother of many of you, grandmother of many more of you, and maybe other relatives. And we have a tendency in these moments to lament. Because it says here in this verse that we just read that you have to remember Krishna at the time of death. So what happens if one of our family members doesn't remember Krishna at the time of death? Then we have to help them. We help them. How do we help them? We chant with them. And if that's not possible, just like, many people have told me that some family member or some friend got COVID and they wouldn't allow them to go into the hospital to chant. So what do we do in these cases? Or some other situation where somebody leaves this world and nobody's around. What do? We do what we just did. This is the actual. My speaking now is just to put the icing on the cake. The cake is chanting the holy name of Krishna. We've all come together. And we've all come together with a specific purpose of transmitting our best wishes, our fullest desire that, I'm sorry, I don't know Dwi Bhuja's mother's name. What is her name?
Danmati.
Danmati. So,
that's what we're doing. We're coming here with a singular consciousness. That singular consciousness of giving the best wishes, so that if there's any discrepancy, there will always be a discrepancy. Krishna says here in Bhagavad Gita, every action, every effort in this world is covered by some type of fault. Just like smoke, fire is covered by smoke. Fire burns very nicely, but there's always some smoke. Even if you have a butane torch, you don't see the smoke, but there's a little bit of smoke. It has to be there. There has to be some carbon dioxide. You may not see it, but it's there. It's produced. And so there's always some, even if someone leaves this world chanting the holy name, just like one of my good friends, he was in Mayapur, and he didn't show up for Mangal Arati, so knocked on his door, and nobody answered, opened the door, and he had left his body. He was sitting there in a chair with his hand in the japa bag in Mayapur. You can imagine what his destiny is. So, but still, they still have, everyone came together and chanted the holy name. We want to make sure. Because if we love someone, this is the nature of love. The nature of love is to give everything we possibly can for the benefit of a person. We were speaking about this yesterday in one internet class that I was giving, that in the verses 32 to 35 of the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, so Arjuna is telling Krishna that, "O Govinda, you are the Lord of my senses, therefore you should understand the condition of my senses." So Arjuna is commanding Krishna, you should understand this, and you should take care of things. You're telling me to fight with my family members, O Madhusudana. You are the enemy of Madhu, but you're telling me to kill my family members. You are not Nanda Sudana. You are not Yashoda Sudana. So why do you want me to kill my family? You don't do it. Why do you? So Arjuna was challenging Krishna. And then at the end he said, "O Janardana, you are the maintainer of all living entities. You control their destiny. And therefore, if you want them dead, then, it's your job, not mine." So he was challenged. I wanted to say, well, this is not good for you. Yes, it was very characteristic of Arjuna, because in the 11th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, after he sees Krishna expanding himself in the Vishwarup, the universal form, he says, "My dear Lord, now I have to apologize. I was sitting together with you, laughing and joking." So when he spoke those things, he had not surrendered to Krishna formally as his disciple. He was his friend. But when he realized, Karpanya dosha pahata svabhava, I'm confused. I'm weakness. I'm feeling a lot of weakness, and Vichjami svam dharma samudachata, and I'm not understanding what is my duty at this point in time, and so therefore, Krishna, I'm requesting you that Krishna, please tell me clearly what is best for me. How do we get Krishna to tell what is best for me? When we have the right attitude. Krishna is telling us right here in 700 texts what is best for us. But if we are not shishya, if we are not surrendered to him, shadi mam pram papana, if we're not surrendered, if we're not desirous of being instructed, if we don't feel like his student, then there will be no benefit. We will look at Bhagavad Gita and we'll see what's in it for me. Otherwise, what benefit will I get according to my desire? But Yatstreya Sanishtitan, Ruhitan Me. Arjuna says, tell me clearly, tell me exactly, what do you want me to understand? I want you to tell me. I don't want to dictate to you. Previously I was dictating. No. I was telling you that, you know, the results of this war will be like this. So when we have that degree of surrender, and especially collectively, the power, just like I was mentioning to some of the family members upstairs, that in Kiev, in Ukraine, so we have hundreds of devotees now. They're all in the temple. The temple, part of the temple is underground. So they you know, up to that point they could never understand the benefit of, I don't know why it was like that, but maybe because they're right next to Russia. But I don't know why they built 2 floors. But now they're saying, Krishna has made the arrangement for us to be safe and to chant His holy name. So they feel very wonderful. They're in this, like Arjuna, they're in a battlefield, but they're feeling the shelter of Krishna. They're feeling, I think the deities there, they said they're the same as the deities in Mayapur. That each deity weighs about 1,000 kilos. So you can't move the deities, you know. Actually, to put the deities in, they had to have a special crane, you know, to put the deity, because you know, it's very difficult to lift the deity like that. So the deity is upstairs, and so they're under His lotus feet. And they feel very safe. So, of course, there's many devotees. I've met there's 17,000 devotees in Ukraine. And here we have a few hundred. And what population of Ukraine is a little under 8 million. So the population here is, you know, about 1 million. Yeah, it fluctuates depending on how many people go to New York, Toronto, London. But you know, around 1,200,000, 1,300,000, right around there. So that means that we should have minimum 8 times less, or a little over 2,000. And these devotees are very serious people. So we have a ways to go. You know, if we take Ukraine as the standard, if we take India as the standard, they have millions of devotees. Millions. They have, I think now 300 and some temples. And so, if we take that as the standard, we got a long ways to go. Prabhupada said, if 10% of the population of any place becomes devotees, then it will be like Vaikuntha. Just taking 10%. The devotees are so powerful. I had that experience once. I was traveling, a long story, but just the essential part. I was traveling to recover a camera which was donated to us, but it was in the middle of the jungle. So I had to go in a river in the jungle. So I took the river, and then there was another river that I had to go on. So I had to wait for the boat, the next boat to come. And so I was standing there chanting, and the boat came, and one German man got off. He said, "I can't believe it, the Hare Krishnas are everywhere." Even in the jungle, they're everywhere. So that's how we should be. And just like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvagata, that the living entity is everywhere. We find them everywhere. So we want to find Vaishnavas everywhere. So we're gathered here to create a consensus of loving sentiments towards someone. Because Krishna consciousness means to have loving sentiments toward everyone. Dhira dhira jana priya priya karo. It is said of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, they saw everyone as their friend. Whether that person saw them as friend or enemy, that didn't matter. It didn't matter to them. We were just discussing Sama Sarvashu Bhuteshu. That spiritual vision means we see everyone as the same. In external society, they try to make everyone artificially the same. In materialistic society, it doesn't work. If we're all the same, why is Russia invading Ukraine? Why do people become envious? Why do people like or dislike someone? We don't have that vision. So collectively here, we try to create, this is called Sadhu Sangha. Sadhu Sangha means collectively we come together through the agency of the most powerful seva, the most powerful service to Krishna, which is chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. And by that chanting, that very, very sincerely, all together, this is the expression of love, and that collective love can propel the soul of anyone, even if they died in an unfortunate circumstance or whatever. What to speak if they left this world? However, it doesn't matter. The most powerful thing is that we come together and we chant the holy name, remembering this person so dear to us. And why are they so dear to us? Because someone is dear to us because Krishna is dear to us. It's like one time Srila Prabhupada asked that, why do we love ourselves? And the devotee said, oh, because Maya. And another devotee said, no, because we think we're the body. Prabhupada said, no. Finally, Prabhupada said, because we are part of Krishna. Because we love Krishna, we love ourselves. But we want to love Krishna more. And therefore, we love our family, we love our friends. And that's partial. But we want to love Krishna. And when we don't know Krishna sufficiently, we find the closest substitute. That person with whom we can feel the greatest connection. So Krishna consciousness means understanding that. So of course we lament, we feel sad, we've lost a very dear person. But now that we're doing this kirtan, there are many ceremonies that we do, Shraddha ceremonies, this and that. But this is the most important. That the devotees of the Lord come together and chant the holy name. And we're begging the holy name, please bless this personality so that they can take shelter of your lotus feet. This is the most wonderful thing we can do. And the next most wonderful thing we can do, that depends on the family members. What can they do? They have to become pure devotees. If they become pure devotees, then it's guaranteed not only the mother, but the grandmother, the great-grandmother, the great-great-great-grandmother, the great-great-great-grandmother, grandfather, and all my children for 25 generations will all be blessed by becoming pure devotees. So at least one of you has to do that, for the benefit of everyone else. So you can pick straws, or you can all just let us all together as a family, as a unit, let us work on this devotion. And this is the most important thing, not only for us and not only for our family, but whenever there's a pure devotee. Just like when Lord Chaitanya appeared 500 years ago, then some of his devotees appeared in places that were very far away from the Ganga. So that was considered to be an impious land. So it was asked, why did they appear in impious places? And the response was, because wherever a devotee appears, that becomes a place of pilgrimage. Wherever a devotee is preaching, wherever a devotee is serving. So also if we become pure devotees, not only do we bless generations, but we bless everyone around us. When Lord Chaitanya was traveling in South India, he met Kurma Brahman. And he had many devotees, and they were all chanting. Kurma Brahman was, householder. He had his duties, responsibilities. Sometimes that's very trying for us. We have to work hard to make money and maintain things. So Kurma Brahman was so overwhelmed with the ecstasy of Lord Chaitanya's kirtan. He said, I want to join you. Lord Chaitanya said, no. Jarita katarikaha Krishna upadesha Maragyaya Guru Tanya Hadayedesh. No, you stay here. And with whomever you meet, everywhere you may go, whatever you know about Krishna, increase it more and more, and you become Guru. Right? So this is the instruction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He wants us to become Guru. He doesn't want us to be, simply, do the best you can. And because sometimes, whenever somebody says, I'll try, I'll say, that means you probably won't. If you say, I'll do it, that means you probably will. There's no guarantee. But we have to have that positive attitude in Krishna consciousness. I must do it. Not that I will do it, I must do it. Why? Because Krishna is saying. That's why. Krishna is telling us. Just like if someone tells you that, I'm dying and in my house there is 300 million TT, go get it. Will you not go? And they say, no, I have to, I have to go meet my uncle because we're going to, what is it? Point 14. So immediately you go. So the greatest benefit is right here in Bhagavad Gita, right here in chanting the holy name. So we must do it. There's no option. Srila Prabhupada said again and again, there are only two options in our life. I will serve Krishna, I will serve Maya. These are the only two options. There's no other option. It's not like we think, oh, I have so many possibilities. Only two. Everything falls under one of those two possibilities. So Maya, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, we're sleeping in the lap of Maya. When we're sleeping in her lap, I always say that Maya is the best business person because she gives you something, she takes it away, and then you're willing to pay for it again. And then she takes it away again, and you're still willing to pay for it again. However many times she takes it away, you're willing to pay for it again. So, if any of us could do business like that, we would be very lucky. You give it, take it back. Like sometimes more people have a mortgage on their house, and the bank comes, takes the house, and keeps whatever you pay. But you probably won't do it again. So, but Maya is so expert. She just keeps us in this cycle, and only Krishna said, Mama Maya Duratyaya. Maya is very powerful because she is Daivi, she is Devaesha, she is divine. So she's divinely inspired, divinely empowered. And the only way you can get away is by Mama Evaye Prapadyante, that you have to surrender to her. And if you surrender to her, then she will take you. Mayamatantaram. She will take you. Krishna will take you away from Maya. If you surrender to him. That's the only way you can get away from Maya. It's not like, there's a mechanical way to do it. If I chant this many mantras, or I do this, or I do 25 yagas. It doesn't work that way. Krishna is not impressed. Srila Prabhupada said one time, speaking of the yogis, he said, Krishna is not impressed by your gymnastics. Krishna is not, or the jnanis, Krishna is not impressed by your knowledge. He is this, Vedanta Krit Vedavid Eva Chaham. He created, he wrote the Vedas. He knows the Vedas, he knows the Vedanta, he knows it all. You're not going to impress him because you read a few books and you memorized some things. And Krishna, one time Prabhupada was walking in a big park near our temple in Mexico City. He was walking and there was some karate people, And Prabhupada would say, just see, they're trying to fight off death, but death will win. Because they were, they weren't fighting anyone like in the air, practicing the. And so he said, yeah, death will win. Yeah. So this is, we just have to remember these things. So this sadhu sangha, we're doing it for a purpose, but the real purpose is to please Krishna. When Krishna is pleased, then whatever we're wishing, then Krishna will satisfy it. And as long as our chanting is, but if our chanting is unmotivated, then it will become more powerful. If we're just chanting to please Krishna, but we're thinking, Krishna, if you like, you can bless my mother and my relatives and my grandmother, you can do that. Then Krishna, they'll get the greatest blessing. Because we're pleasing Krishna. Krishna can accomplish anything. So this is, these are some things I wanted to say. I just wanted to read the next verse. It's a very important verse. It's a follow-up. Therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna, and at the same time carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. So Krishna is telling us, don't give up what you're doing. Don't just with your mind, Mayarpita Mano Buddhir. Just worship me with your mind and your intelligence. Otherwise, with your whole being. Just worship me. And everything will be perfect. So we don't want to wait till the time of death. It's like, it's a gamble. We don't know when we'll die. So let us all take this moment, and not let it be what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, that by Shmashana Vairagya. Shmashana Vairagya means the renunciation that comes at the cremation site. When someone dies, sometimes we feel very sad, and we think philosophically, and maybe I should do this, but then after a few weeks, business back to normal. We should take advantage of these moments to reflect that now, at this moment, I've understood that death can be there at any time. Therefore, let me be serious and prepare myself properly. And this is Krishna's message in Bhagavad Gita. So I'll stop here. Are there any questions, any comments?
In Srila Prabhupada's purport, right? Srila Prabhupada's purport, where he says that one's thoughts during the course of one's life accumulate to influence the thoughts at the moment of death.
People allow us, everyone to hear. Make sure they hear.
Well, if one's activities in life accumulates to influence what he thinks of at the time of death, we have Maharaj Katwanga in Srimad Bhagavatam. So he was busy fighting and doing so many things. And when he had gotten the benediction of how long again, he had asked how long I would live for, and they told him you only have a moment. And he fixed his mind on Krishna and he attained perfection. So there's two questions here. Is there another factor at play to help us to be able to think of Krishna at the time of death? Because Maharaj Katwanga, he was busy doing a bunch of things.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, one may ask if worshipping the devas or serving the devas, they can help you to remember Krishna at the time of death. Is it possible?
may be possible, but it may not be probable. Here it says, Mamanushvara Yudhya Cha. That, just remember me, so even if Katwanga was fighting, if he was remembering Krishna, like Arjuna, then he was preparing himself. But that example of Katwanga is meant to show us that even if by some ill fortune you haven't been able to utilize your life in the best way, if at the time of death you get that good fortune, like Katwanga Maharaj, but he would not have asked for that if he didn't worship Krishna before. If he didn't know who Krishna was, he wouldn't say at the time of, because he asked the Devas, when will I die? That you're already dead. As soon as you get out of our heavenly atmosphere, your life is expired. On earth, you would have been dead, centuries ago. So, as soon as you get out of our orbit, you're dead. And he said, then let me remember Krishna. They gave him 2 wishes. But when will I die? You're already dead. So then please bless me with Krishna. So then, and as far as our accumulating, it's not accumulating activities, it's the cumulative thoughts. Otherwise, what are we thinking about? What are we meditating on? Even though we may be doing something else, if we're meditating on pleasing Krishna, even if it's indirect, as long as we know that everything should be offered to Krishna, if we know that, then we will do it, maybe in an indirect way. Like Narada Muni, he asked Lord Vishnu, who is your greatest devotee? And he said, this farmer. So the farmer, Narada Muni was watching the farmer, and he said 15 minutes of prayers. Then he went and plowed the fields all day long. Then at the end he said 15-minute prayers. Narada Muni, how can he be the great? He's only praying like 30 minutes. So Lord Vishnu said, I want you to do something. Take 1 pot full of ghee to the brim, and you walk, well, maybe he said half a yojana, 1 mile, kilometer, whatever, a distance. And he did. And so when he reached Lord Vishnu, he said, so, did you spill a drop? No. Did you remember me? No. I was thinking of the pot. But he was doing it for Krishna. So therefore, even though it was indirect, it was done for Krishna, and therefore he considered a great devotee. He just understands, I must do it for Krishna. So the more we learn to dedicate every part of our life, every aspect, every activity, every thought, word, and deed, even though sometimes it may not be a direct meditation, there will be great benefit. And that will accumulate, that's what's accumulating at the time of death. Everything that I'm dedicating to Krishna. Anyone else? No? Then we can stop here. Again, I thank you all very much for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to offer some service. And so we can all together, one time, for the benefit of Prabhuji's mother, some of your mother, grandmother, let us chant one time the Maha Mantra together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava ki jai, Jai Gorkana.
His Holiness Prabhupada Swami Maharaj ki jai.
Have some arti.
Okay.